Reporters are fanned out across the country, covering the election from all angles. We begin this hour with NBC's Dasha Burns, live in West Palm Beach, Florida, with the Trump campaign. Dasha, good to see you. So give us a sense of what you're seeing and you're hearing from the campaign there today as voters are lining up across the country. Millions of ballots have already been cast.
Well, look, Vicky, the former president held his last rally of his near decade as a candidate, and he wrapped up late, started after midnight, went really late, and landed here in Palm Beach about 6 a.m. this morning. He'll be heading to the polls himself to vote in just a little bit here. And look, his closing message was supposed to be really focused on the economy and on immigration, but he often did veer off of his prepared remarks, as he has done for about a decade now, painting a pretty bleak picture of a nation that is broken, that only he can fix. Today, the campaign is hunkered down. There's anxiety all around, but the former president projecting confidence, saying last night that there's a 95% chance that he's going to win. Of course, if you look at the polls, that's not exactly what they're saying. This is a very, very close race, and everyone is on the edge of their seats, guys.
On the edge of our seats, Dasha, and I have to say, you know, the key state I'm looking at right now is North Carolina. Of those 7 key battleground states, North Carolina is tied second for the second most number of electoral votes. And that's where Trump only won by a little more than 1 percentage point last time. What does the campaign see ultimately as its path to victory this time? My sources tell me it's all about Mecklenburg County there, where Charlotte is, and that populous area where they have a lot of registered Democrats. What are you seeing?
Yeah, I mean, Harris is trying to turn folks out in those urban areas. The former president trying to really ramp up his support in those rural areas. And you're right, Morgan, when you say that North Carolina is super important, not only because it has that second largest number of votes, but because that is where former President Trump is playing defense. He really needs to keep that state if he wants to pave his path to 270. So that's the reason why he spent the majority of his last few days actually in North Carolina, then making stops in both Pennsylvania and Michigan. Morgan. All
right. Our thanks to Dasha Burns there on the ground. Dasha, thank you.
Morgan, now to Pennsylvania, a critical state for both candidates' path to the 270 electoral votes needed to win the White House. Pennsylvania was one of the last states called in 2020, with President Joe Biden winning by just over 80,000 votes. Now, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump were both there yesterday for the final day on the campaign trail, trying to court voters and their state's 19 electoral votes. NBC News correspondent Rahim Ellis is in Erie County, Pennsylvania, following the very latest for us. So, Rahim, in Erie County, we know Biden won in 2020 by just 1 point. In 2016, Trump won by 2 points. What are you hearing from voters there today?
Well, this gymnasium at an elementary school has been pretty busy, but not shooting basketballs. They are casting their ballots. This is one side of what's happening in one precinct. Over here on the other side of the gymnasium, it's another precinct where the votes are going on. What we're hearing from voters is that many of them came out very early today to cast their ballot. A lot of them were very anxious about doing this. I should tell you, though, about the candidates, as you mentioned. This is a very important state for them. Kamala Harris has had campaign events here 16 times in this election cycle. Donald Trump has been here some 21 times in the election cycle. And you pointed it out. Erie County has been a very pivotal state for area for many people because it's historically voted for the winner in the election. You pointed out Donald Trump won it over Hillary Clinton by just 2 percentage points out of this county, and Biden took it by just 1% in this county. What are voters saying? What are those voters saying? Let's take a listen. We talked to some of them earlier today.
I'll tell you this. No. I'm glad that it's over. I'm glad it's almost over. It's been crazy, you know?
I'm a little nervous about the results, but I am relieved that it's here, and I've done my duty.
I feel good about it. You know, it's what we should do. It's, you know, vote if you want change.
I'm scared to death for my grandkids owing money that I'm spending today.
We need to vote. Everybody needs to vote and vote their conscience.
Many voters told me that they were anxious, exhausted, and as you heard one say, he's just glad it's over. Vicki?
A lot of energy, though, there. Rahim Ellis, thank you very much, live from Erie County for us.
Well, Vicki, in Michigan, Trump and Harris are vying for the state's 15 electoral votes. The former president held his final rally in the state yesterday, the same place where he closed out his last 2 campaigns. Meanwhile, the VP made several stops in the state on Sunday, and the state flipped blue as a reminder with a Biden win back in 2020 after Trump won that state back in 2016. That's where we find our NBC News national correspondent Yasmin Vasugian, who joins us now from Dearborn, Michigan, a very important area of the state. Yasmin, this is interesting because we just heard Rahim reporting on the anxiety and the emotions running high. Michigan saw high numbers of not only voters, but of women specifically turning out for early voting. And you talked to them about some of those feelings, especially the issues that are driving their vote. What did they say?
I'm glad you brought up kind of the anxiety and the nervousness, Morgan, that a lot of folks are feeling, because I'm especially hearing that from people here in Michigan as well. I spoke to a group of voters, of female voters last night with a group called Red Wine and Blue, and there were tears shed about kind of the anxiety and nervousness and all kind of the preparation and the work that was put into this election and getting folks to turn out and now waiting the next 24 hours for these election results, and especially to see how Michigan turns out. I've been speaking to women all day who've been coming here to vote on Election Day, and they're really focused on one thing, right? And I think you can guess what that is, and that is reproductive rights, right? We saw what happened in the 2022 midterms. We see what happens every time reproductive rights is on a ballot in any state across this country. A lot of women are showing up today and voting with that in mind. Let's take a listen to one woman I spoke to, Morgan, and then we'll talk on the other side.
I was like, I love you, and if you love me, you'll vote for my rights, and you'll vote for the rights of my fellow women. Get a good, strong woman in office, and I think we'll be okay.
And is that why you voted for Harris?
Partially. I was actually just genuinely kind of, because like I said, I didn't pay super close attention, but I did do like my own little bit of research, so
mostly because of me, though.
So you literally had a girlfriend convincing her boyfriend to vote for Kamala Harris because of reproductive rights, right? And as voters are showing up here, Morgan, today, right, you got local races, national races kind of making their last pitch, their final ditch effort as folks are making their way into this middle school right here to cast their ballot, Morgan.
Yes, when you talk about the importance of the women's vote there, but let's be clear about where you are.
Yeah.
You are in Dearborn, Michigan. That has one of the highest Arab American populations in this entire country. If I remember correctly, that's about 200,000 registered Arab American voters. And this is a community that has really been split and struggling with the current president's handling of Gaza. Could their votes, especially around this issue, be the deciding factor in who wins this state?
Short answer, yes. Longer answer is the Harris team, for instance, is hoping that the votes that could feasibly be cast by Arab Americans in this state, and you're right, 200,000 or so registered active Arab American voters that could cast their ballots. They're hoping that for those folks that are saying, I'm going to cast my ballot for third party Jill Stein and or Donald Trump because of the decisions made in the Gaza war, will be counteracted by the female vote. That is what the Harris camp is hoping. But look, 200,000 votes, that's a significant number of folks that could really swing this state one way, Morgan, or another.
All right, Yasmin Vasugian on the ground there in Dearborn, Michigan for us. Yasmin, thank you.
Vice President Harris's running mate, Governor Tim Walz, is about to land in must-win Pennsylvania as he makes a last-minute stop to energize voters in this critical blue wall state.
All of this comes after Harris blitzed Pennsylvania on the eve of the election and held her final rally in Philadelphia. NBC News White House correspondent Mike Memoli is live at the vice president's residence in D.C., where Harris will be watching those results come in. Mike, you've been talking to the Harris campaign. How confident are they specifically about Pennsylvania?
Well, what makes Pennsylvania so interesting as you look at the broader battleground map is not just that it has the most electoral votes at stake, 19, but compared to the other states, it has the lowest share of early votes that have already been cast. So what does that mean? That means it has the most votes that will be cast today on Election Day. And so that makes that ground game, that late visit by Governor Walz, the visits that the vice president made across the state last night, so important. But the vice president's team really is optimistic because they say, as the vice president herself said last night, momentum is on our side. They are seeing in their own data that late deciding voters are breaking heavily towards her. And that's why they're really confident that this could be the state, just as it was 4 years ago for President Biden, that potentially puts her over the 270 she needs to be elected president.
You know, Mike Harris has not mentioned Trump by name at any of her final rallies in Philly and in Pittsburgh. Talk about the shift in strategy and the focus on uplift and turning the page, to take some words out of her book.
Well, Vicki, when you think about the issues we've been talking about this entire campaign that are so important, whether it's the economy and inflation, whether it's reproductive rights, there are certainly a number of them that the Harris campaign thinks that they have managed to fight to victory here, make the case for. But the sort of secret weapon that even the Biden campaign before the Harris campaign was talking about that they thought might be important is exhaustion, that really voters would not want to go back to, as we've heard at all these rallies, those days of Trump, the turmoil that came with it, both when he was in the White House, but also certainly on the campaign trail. And so that's why the Harris campaign made that decision late, that they're going to end on a positive note, just to highlight that exhaustion, but to try to pitch to those voters who are fed up with politics in general.
All right, Mike Memley there on the ground for us. Mike, thanks. And remember, our special election night coverage begins at 5 p.m. Eastern right here on News Now. Then you can join Lester Holt and Savannah Guthrie at 7 p.m. on News Now and on NBC.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.